Hello.
James May is slow. Steady.
非常掌声还不够激烈，我跟你讲。Oh, you're late.
He's always slow. Primarily for the Grand Tour. I shall be looking tomorrow at the Honky L5, and then afterwards, the three of us will be driving around this province in some absolutely terrible European and American cars, none of which have air conditioning. And so, while we were here, we thought, in what we've just learned is China's biggest city, we did not know that. We thought it would be a good idea to introduce you all to DriveTribe. This was the idea of all of us, James, Richard and me, after I had a small problem with the BBC. We decided that we would be on Amazon, which is American, which is much smaller, and that DriveTribe would be a huge global car platform where people could come and talk about cars. And it seems so far to be going very, very well around all of the world, well, the Western world, let's put it that way, so far. And what we hope is that the world's next great automotive superpower, China, can become part of the DriveTribe community. So we hope you all take part in it. And I would now like to hand you over, if I may, to Richard Hammond, who has all the numbers in his head and is also known as being the genuinely funny one among the three of us. So for the detail and the comedy, Richard Hammond.
Really not a lot for me to add to Jeremy's magnificent speech. But I would like to say, for us, this is where it gets really exciting. Because the strength of DriveTribe is its ability to connect people across the globe with a shared passion. And that passion can be for any corner, no matter how obscure, of the whole motoring world. And the more people involved, the better it will be. Sharing passion for racing, electric vehicles, smart cars, whatever it is, the more people on platform, the more interesting it is for all of us. So we all on DriveTribe would very much welcome you guys coming along and joining us there. And now I would like to hand over to a singing legend, Mr. James May. James May.
I'm not going to sing, so don't worry. Can I say it's a great pleasure to be here in China's Motor City, not least because we were recently in Detroit, which is sometimes called the Chongqing of America. Yes, we are here with the Grand Tour, as Jeremy says, to drive some terrible, outdated, low-tech European and American cars. Yeah, and more importantly, as Hammond says, and this is leaving me very little to say myself because I've gone last, to infuse you with our great passion for DriveTribe, which is a motoring platform that really knows no international boundaries. And there are two very good reasons for us wanting it to be a success in China and with Chinese readers and viewers, and it's because, as Jeremy said, China is the biggest by far in the world emerging automotive powerhouse, and the Chinese people would appear to be the world's most enthusiastic users of modern digital platforms to distribute information and enthusiasm. We think that DriveTribe has been very successful so far. It's the world's biggest single automotive platform. But we also still think that London is a big city with a massive 8 million people in it. So what we really hope is that actually, if you could become involved, it will become very, very much bigger. And we hope so. Thank you.
It was chosen because of its size, because of the car industry here. And actually, we wanted to come to China because of the roads. We wanted to film some of the amazing engineering, bridges, viaducts, and so on. I have no idea why we're here and not Shanghai or Hong Kong or Beijing or Xi'an or Zhengzhou or anywhere else. But we are just here, and since we were here, we thought this is as good a place as any to introduce China to DriveTribe.
It's also famously quite cold in England, and we did want to warm ourselves up.
Actually, you said that. We're having the hottest summer for 40 years in the UK. This is cold for us.
Okay. And as we know, Sina Weibo is very popular now in China, especially among the youngest generation. And we also know that DriveTribe has opened its official account in Weibo already. So the first question is, do you have any plan of opening your own account in Weibo? Secondly, Mr. Richard, I'm asking this instead of on behalf of one of my friends, which is your favorite car?
My favourite car would be...
Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver. Well, who said that? We'll go with that. We'll go with Oliver. Yeah.
我最喜欢的车是那辆。
Or maybe a Lamborghini Sesto Elemento.
It, and we tried to, this morning, we tried to open an account for Jeremy, but you have to go online to do it, which is hard if you come here with your European iPad.
So what is FUQ?
It's a website.
Here.
No, in America.
In America? Who cares about America?
Okay.
No, we do. The first bit of your question, look, we grew up when having a car in the UK was a status symbol. Now it's a status symbol to not have a car. The really rich people in the UK and in New York, actually, for that matter, they say, look, we're so wealthy, we don't have a car. We use Uber, we use public transport. Dad bought a new car when we were small. It was the most exciting day ever. And we can still remember the first cars we ever had and the number plate, the registration plate of those cars. And so we have this enthusiasm for cars, which I sense is in China now to a greater extent than probably anywhere else in the world. Because cars are new here, they're new by global standards, they're new here, they're exciting, they're fun, they're a sense of freedom, they're a sense of personal mobility, they're a status symbol, they're everything.
And it's a great time for China to suddenly announce its intentions to grow and become a big global player manufacturer. Because we're seeing so much change in the automotive world with electric vehicles, smart technology on board. And if there are a lot of cars being made and sold, then people will want to talk about them. And that's what DriveTribe is about.
Yes, it is interesting that the car is going through the most radical change it's known since it was invented, really. The Chinese car industry, car manufacturing industry, is very modern and has a very progressive attitude to things like automated cars, intelligent cars, smart roads and so on. So I think, to be honest, and without wishing to sound too smarmy, you are probably in control of the future of car culture. But please do it on DriveTribe.
However, so far the world has not yet made a robot that could bring me my shoes. So how it thinks it's going to make a car, I have absolutely no idea. I don't believe in any of our lifetimes we will see fully autonomous cars. And the other thing we have to remember is driving is not that difficult. Everybody can do it, apart from our director on the Grand Tour.
If autonomous cars do happen, when they happen, I don't think there's any doubt that the business of driving yourself will continue, even if only as a hobby, because we love it.
I don't really believe in the self-driving car either. Certainly it's not in the immediate future. But if it does happen, the good news is that the only people driving the cars themselves will be the people who like doing it, so that can't be a bad thing. Average monthly users, is that right? You're the numbers man as well as the
man, as you know.
Yeah. So yes, and it will continue to grow. We haven't got the whole world yet, so I think it could be much bigger. could be the future of all these things.
I think as well because of the variety of subjects, so however obscure a corner of things motoring, it can be featured.
Mr. May, as you noticed, was late to the press conference because he was lost. That's in the hotel. Can you imagine what he's going to be like outside of the hotel? And Hong Kong is now Chinese. We're not sour, we're not bitter. So we've been there many times also. As far as I have a view that we grew up with only Western cars, and some of them were interesting, some of them were not. Then there were Japanese cars that came into the world. Some of them were interesting, some of them were not. And then the latest powerhouse is Korea, or the most recent, as far as we're concerned, in the West. And all of them are not interesting. What we would hope to see, as an enthusiast, is that China makes cars for everybody, which it must do in order to survive, but also makes the equivalent of the Nissan GTR, or the Ferrari 488, or the Lotus interesting, amazing cars in the not too distant future, which is what Korea, with the exception of the Kia Stinger, has not yet done, and that's not that interesting. Or Toyota Corolla, then come on board. Nobody will read your stuff, but come on board. And similarly, Formula One, Formula E, Ferrari, Mercedes, rallying. There's a million different areas of motoring around the world, and we want all of them to be on DriveTribe. The voices that will be heard, obviously, are those that are funny, interesting, and informative.
We don't know if DriveTribe would focus on new energy cars in the future, and are you going to change your attitude towards it?
DriveTribe will undoubtedly concentrate to a very large extent on electric cars, because electric cars are coming. This is just now bound to come. There's legislation in China that's going to force them to come. That's going to happen all around the world. Tesla will go under, I should imagine, at some point, or be taken over by Mercedes, but you know, they are coming. I don't like them, but that's not relevant. I don't like classical music. It doesn't mean that classical music has no place in the world. It's irrelevant. It's what I think is not. I just don't. I like a sound. I like a car to make a noise. If you've driven a Lexus LFA, to hear that engine. If you take that away, for me, a great deal of the pleasure of the car is gone. And somebody says, oh, an electric car has a lot of torque. I don't care. You know, but they're coming.
You won't buy a car without engines?
No, I will never have an electric car. But what makes the world go round is James does have a quasi-electric car. And I thought it was... No, I didn't know he had a new one. I don't listen to him. But he has an electric car. So but then there's two different viewpoints. I don't like them. James sees a future for them, and that's how the world will be.
There was a point not long ago when, for a time, more traffic on DriveTribe was about electric vehicles than not. So the interest is out, and if people are interested in stuff, they will talk about it on platform, and it will generate noise. People will see it.
Why don't you tell them about your experience with electric cars?
I'm just not very good with them. They don't like me. That's different.
Okay. So do you think the existence of DT would push forward the completeness of the car culture of China?
I think one of the great things you have in China is that you're not allowed to modify cars, because in our experience, any car modified by a private individual is less good than the one made by the experts in the first place. So congratulations on that.
James is absolutely right. We always say that if you modify your car, you ruin it. But there is one exception to this: American cars. They can be improved by individuals, and we recently drove some cars in America that had been modified and had been tuned, and they were much better than they had been when they came off the production line. But that's just an American culture of badly made cars that are then doesn't apply with in Europe. Aston Martin, Lotus. Can we just back it down? We've just been on a plane for all day, so if we could have one more question, is that all right?
Okay.
And we're thirsty.
All right.
We're alcoholics.
Okay, as this is the final question, I'm asking a very, very remote question. Okay, let's think about a day that you will choose to have your long vacation and you will be leaving this field. So, do you have any plan for who is going to inherit the fame and reputation?
Well, that's in some ways, I'd like to think that's what DriveTribe is for. DriveTribe will help the world to discover, in a very free and fair way, who the next generation of people like us should be, and it can't happen too soon, really.
Okay.
James is absolutely right. That's one of DriveTribe's functions. That talent, the next TV hosts, the next new media producers may already be there on platform working away, and we'll see them across the world one day, and it's already happening. People are starting their careers from the site. Some people use it just to talk to other people who love cars. Some people want to make their own material and get it out there. And it's already turning from a hobby into jobs for people, and we want to see more of that.
The only problem they'll have is they'll never be as good as we were.
I was going to say,
we are.
okay.